Marcus and Ellen Harper left Chicago on a Tuesday in early October, driving south until the city thinned into cornfields, then into hills, then into mountains that swallowed cell service and sunlight alike. They were 35 and 33, black, exhausted, and carrying grief too heavy for words. The miscarriage had happened 6 weeks earlier, sudden and brutal, and the apartment they'd painted soft yellow for a nursery now felt like a tomb. They needed distance. They needed silence. They needed somewhere the world would stop asking how they were doing. The realtor had called it a motivated seller. The price was so low it felt like theft. 140 acres of rolling West Virginia land. A white clapboard farmhouse built in 1891. A barn, a creek, and a view that made Ellen cry the first time she saw it. They signed the papers without ever meeting the seller. They moved in 3 days later. The first night they slept 12 hours straight. The second night they made love for the first time since the hospital. The third night they woke to find a perfect circle of salt on the front porch, a bundle of dried sage and something that looked like chicken bones tied with red twine resting in the center. Marcus laughed it off. Country welcome basket. Ellen didn't laugh. She swept the salt into the grass and burned the bundle in the fireplace, but the smell lingered for days. The neighbors came the next morning. There were 7 of them, all pale, all thin, all with the same flat blue eyes and the same unsmiling mouths. They stood at the edge of the yard in a loose half circle and stared at the house like they were waiting for something to happen. The oldest, a woman who introduced herself as Sister Ruth, spoke first. "Welcome to Miller Road," she said. "You're the first in a long while." Marcus thanked her, asked if they needed anything, offered coffee. Sister Ruth just looked at Ellen, long and slow, like she was reading something written on her skin. "You'll do nicely," she said, and turned away. They left another gift the next morning. This time it was a mason jar filled with dirt and what looked like teeth. Ellen threw it into the creek without telling Marcus. She started dreaming that night. Dreams of fire, of a woman tied to a stake in the back field, screaming as flames licked up her legs. Dreams of townspeople standing in a circle, faces lit orange, mouths moving in words Ellen couldn't hear but somehow understood. She woke up tasting smoke. Part 2. The Land Remembers. Marcus found the first document in the barn 3 weeks after they moved in. He'd been clearing out decades of junk, rusted tools, moldy hay, a cradle rotting in the corner, and discovered a loose floorboard. Beneath it was a tin box containing papers yellowed with age, land deeds from the 1700s, a hand-drawn map of the property with symbols Marcus didn't recognize, and a single page written in spidery script. 1753. The woman called Hester Crow was taken in the night and burned in the West Field for crimes against God and man. Her blood soaked the earth, and the earth drank deep. The bargain was struck. Every 100 years, fresh blood must feed the land, else Hester awake and take her due. The families of Miller Road are bound to this covenant until the end of days. Marcus read it twice, laughed, showed it to Ellen as a curiosity, a piece of local folklore. Ellen didn't laugh. She'd started sleepwalking. Marcus would wake to find her standing at the window, staring out at the back field where the grass grew black and oily despite the autumn frost. She'd started finding things in her pockets, small bones, feathers, clumps of dirt that smelled like grave soil. The neighbors kept coming, always at dawn, always leaving gifts. A circle of stones around the house, a wreath of thorns on the door, a child's dress, yellowed with age, laid neatly on the porch swing. With every gift, the townspeople grew bolder. They'd stand closer to the house, watch through the windows, whisper to each other in a dialect Marcus couldn't place. Sister Ruth came alone one morning. She stood at the edge of the porch and spoke to Ellen through the screen door. "The exchange comes soon," she said. "It's been 100 years since the last. The land is hungry." Ellen slammed the door and locked it. That night, the carving appeared. Deep gouges in the living room wall, hidden behind the couch. Symbols that matched the ones on the old map. Hester Crow's name spelled out in letters that wept something dark and viscous. Marcus tried to leave the next day. He packed the car, told Ellen they were going back to Chicago, that this place was poisoned. The road took them in circles. Every turn led back to the house. Every mile marker was the same. The GPS spun in confused circles, then went black. They were trapped. Ellen found the locket in the attic. It was hidden inside a hollowed-out beam, wrapped in oilcloth that disintegrated at her touch. The locket was silver, tarnished black with age, containing a miniature portrait of a woman with Ellen's eyes. On the back, engraved in tiny script, Hester Crow, 1731 to 1753. May her blood return. Ellen sat on the attic floor and cried for the first time since the miscarriage, because she understood now. Her grandmother had been adopted. Her mother had never known her birth family. There were no photographs, no stories, no connection to the past before Chicago. But Ellen had always known she was different. The way plants grew toward her like she was the sun. The way animals followed her in the park. The way she dreamed of fire since childhood. Dreams her mother had dismissed as nightmares. She was Hester Crow's blood. 10 generations removed, carried across oceans and state lines and centuries of trying to escape. The town had been waiting. The land had been waiting. Marcus tried to get her to leave again, tried to break through whatever barrier kept them circling back to the house. But Ellen knew it was too late. She could feel it in the soil beneath her bare feet when she walked the fields, could feel Hester waking, could feel the hunger. The townspeople gathered on the night of the new moon. They came with torches, just like in Ellen's dreams. Sister Ruth stood at their head, holding the yellowed child's dress that had appeared on the porch weeks earlier. "It's time," she said. Marcus tried to fight, tried to protect his wife with the shotgun he'd bought after the first week of gifts. But the townspeople didn't fear guns. They feared only one thing: the woman they had burned alive in 1753. the woman whose blood had returned. Ellen walked out to meet them. She was barefoot, wearing the white nightgown her grandmother had given her as a child. She carried nothing. She was everything. The townspeople fell to their knees as she passed. Sister Ruth wept. "You were supposed to be the sacrifice," she whispered, "the blood to keep her sleeping." "No," Ellen said. Her voice was hers and not hers, layered with something ancient and furious. "I am the awakening." The ground split open in the west field. Something rose from the earth that had been waiting since 1753. Something that wore Ellen's face and Hester's rage. Something that remembered fire. The last thing Marcus saw was his wife's silhouette against flames that burned cold and blue. The last thing he heard was laughter. Not Ellen's, not Hester's, something older, something that had finally come home. When the state police arrived 3 days later, responding to a welfare check from Ellen's sister in Chicago, they found the house empty. The fields were burned black in a perfect circle. 14 bodies lay in the ashes, arranged in a pattern that matched the symbols from the barn documents. Their faces were peaceful. Their eyes were gone. Marcus and Ellen Harper were never found. The house on Miller Road went back on the market 6 months later. The price was suspiciously low. The listing mentioned a motivated seller. And every morning, at the edge of the property, a new circle of salt appears, waiting, always waiting, for the next ones who need silence, who need healing, who think the country will fix what the city broke. The land remembers, and Hester Crow is finally awake.